What is free will? It's a concept we all take for granted, the idea that we are in control of our actions, that we have the freedom to make choices that shape our lives. But what if that sense of freedom is an illusion? What if the decisions we make are not truly ours? Free will has been debated for centuries by philosophers, scientists, and theologians. The question at the heart of it is simple: are we really free to choose, or are our actions predetermined by factors outside of our control? In this video, we're diving deep into the illusion of free will. We'll explore what science, philosophy, and psychology have to say about the choices we make, and whether or not we truly have control over them. As we journey through this topic, you may start to question the very nature of your own decisions. To understand free will, we first need to talk about determinism. Determinism is the idea that every event or state of affairs, including human actions, is the inevitable result of preceding causes. In other words, if the universe operates by a set of rules, then everything, including our choices, is governed by those rules. Think about the laws of physics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. If everything in the universe follows a cause and effect chain, then even our thoughts and behaviors must be part of that chain. In this view, free will doesn't exist because our actions are determined by prior events. Many scientists and philosophers, including figures like Albert Einstein and Sigmund Freud, have supported determinism. If determinism is true, it means that everything we do has already been set into motion by factors we can't control, like our genetics, environment, and even random quantum events. So where does that leave free will? Let's shift our focus to the brain. Neuroscience has revealed some fascinating insights into how we make decisions. In 1983, neuroscientist Benjamin Libet conducted a groundbreaking experiment that challenged the notion of free will. Libet discovered that brain activity related to a decision occurs before we're even consciously aware of making that choice. In simple terms, our brain has already decided for us before we consciously experience the decision. This suggests that our sense of free will may be more of a post hoc rationalization. Our brain makes a decision, and then our conscious mind comes up with reasons to justify it. This research has led some neuroscientists to question whether free will is real at all. If our decisions are made before we are consciously aware of them, is it really us making the choices, or is it something deeper, like unconscious processes? While neuroscience offers biological explanations, philosophy asks deeper questions about the nature of freedom and morality. One of the major positions in philosophy is compatibilism, the idea that free will can exist even in a determined universe. Compatibilists argue that free will doesn't require absolute freedom from causality. Instead, they believe we have free will if we can act in accordance with our desires and intentions, even if those desires are influenced by prior causes. In this view, free will is about being able to act without external constraints, rather than escaping cause and effect. On the other side of the spectrum, libertarianism in philosophy defends the existence of free will and claims that not all events, including human actions, are determined. Libertarians argue that human beings have a special kind of agency that allows them to make choices independent of deterministic forces. These philosophical debates have persisted for centuries, and they continue to shape how we think about free will today. Now let's consider the impact of our environment and genetics on decision-making. We are born with certain genetic predispositions, traits, tendencies, and even behavioral inclinations. Our environment shapes these further, from the values we're taught as children to the cultural norms that influence our behavior. Studies have shown that many of our preferences and tendencies are influenced by factors beyond our control. For example, psychological research indicates that our upbringing, education, and even socioeconomic status play significant roles in the choices we make. If so much of who we are is shaped by our genes and environment, how much room is left for free will? Are we simply the product of our biology and circumstances? And if so, what does that mean for the idea that we're in control of our destiny? Quantum mechanics is often cited as a potential solution to the free will versus determinism debate. Unlike classical physics, which is deterministic, quantum mechanics introduces an element of unpredictability at the subatomic level. The famous Heisenberg uncertainty principle tells us that it's impossible to know both the position and velocity of a particle at the same time with absolute precision. Some philosophers and physicists have speculated that this randomness in quantum mechanics might leave room for free will. If the universe isn't entirely deterministic, perhaps human decisions could involve an element of randomness or indeterminacy. However, critics argue that randomness isn't the same as free will. Just because an event is unpredictable doesn't mean it's a conscious choice. So while quantum mechanics adds complexity to the debate, it doesn't necessarily solve the problem of free will. The question of free will is more than an abstract philosophical issue. It has real-world implications for how we think about morality and responsibility. If our actions are determined by factors outside our control, can we be held accountable for them? Consider the legal system. Our laws are based on the assumption that people have free will and are therefore responsible for their actions. If someone commits a crime, they are punished because they are believed to have freely chosen to break the law. But if free will doesn't exist, is it fair to hold people accountable for their actions? This raises difficult ethical questions about justice and punishment. If individuals don't truly have control over their decisions, should we be focusing more on rehabilitation than retribution? Should our understanding of free will shape how we approach criminal behavior? As we've explored, the idea of free will is complex, with scientific, philosophical, and ethical dimensions. While determinism and neuroscience suggest that our choices are heavily influenced by factors beyond our control, the human experience of making decisions feels deeply personal and free. Ultimately, whether free will is an illusion or a reality may depend on how we define it. If free will means absolute freedom from causality, then it may indeed be an illusion. But if free will means acting in line with our desires and intentions, even if those are influenced by external factors, then perhaps we do have a form of freedom. At the end of the day, the illusion of free will may still serve an important function. It allows us to navigate our lives with a sense of agency and responsibility, even if the choices we make are more constrained than we realize. As we wrap up this exploration of free will, the question remains, are we truly free to choose, or are our lives shaped by forces beyond our control? The answer might not be clear-cut, and perhaps that's what makes this topic so endlessly fascinating. We invite you to reflect on your own beliefs. Do you believe in free will? Does it matter if free will is an illusion? How might your understanding of free will influence the way you live your life? Thank you for joining us on this journey through the nature of free will. Be sure to subscribe to The Storyteller for more thought-provoking content on the mysteries of existence.